Makadi mose muri Zimbabwe kusangana zvekare pano pachivhitivhiti zvigananda zvotiza munyika but according to information yandakabata pano muri Zimbabwe hazvina kumira zvakanaka. Zviri kunzi exclusive Mnangagwa's in secret night flight out of Zimbabwe takes bags of gold with him. President Emerson Mnangagwa quietly left the country aboard a private jet on Wednesday night ahead of political sensitive hearing into Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, fueling speculation in Harare over both his whereabouts and the rising tension within the ruling establishment. Sources said Mnangagwa arrived at airport unexpectedly in private vehicle. He was not in usually heavy securitized and loud presidential convoy that includes armed escort vehicle and police motorcade outriders. Airport staff were ordered to clear section of the terminal before he was ushered through a private lounge direct to the hangar where a private jet was waiting. No official send-off ceremony was held, and state media like Herald and ZBC carried no coverage of the departure. Adding to that intrigue, sources said another private jet allegedly departed shortly after president aircraft carried gold and traveling in the same direction. So muri Zimbabwe ndo zviri kutaurwawo nevanhu vane runyerekupe renyaya idzi, vane deketeke, vane guwa racho. So ndo mamiriro zvakaita. Isusu hatisi kuenda kurifu, tobva tapera pano, tobva takupai nyaya yemacomrades akanga achitaura nyaya dzanotemba muriswana naJoe Charamba. Muchangodziteerera monzwa mozotudzawo zvamunofunga.
But the issue here, where you're seeing these two tussling, is on the issue of power, access to power. So you've got a collision here between a formal authority and an informal influence. And this is a dynamic that has defined Zimbabwean politics for decades. We know that. But with Emerson Mnangagwa, it is becoming more visible, more volatile, and more consequential. And that is problematic. So on one side, you are having one actor with Charamba, who is representing an institutional voice of the president, who is the custodian of protocol. We know that Charamba is big on protocol and is also a representative of the state. Those are his characteristics. And then on one side, you're looking at a free agent, a free political agent, a marauding hound dog in the form of Themba Mliswa, who is a loud, obnoxious individual and a visible operator for that matter. Someone that does not occupy any position, but when you are looking at him and the way that he presents himself, he is undeniably close, or is in close proximity to the networks that are orbiting around Emerson Mnangagwa. I think if you want to talk about, the capture of the president or the thieves surrounding the president, the definition that underpinned the 2017 occurrence, I think it is better suited now when it comes to Emerson Mnangagwa. Because at least, back then, you had, the G40, the Lacoste, those were the warring factions that were there. But these people, all these people, they occupied positions of authority. But this time around, you are having marauding dogs orbiting around the president. So the clash of these two, ladies and gentlemen, is not by accident. But it is a clash that is exposing an uncomfortable truth that Zimbabwe's governance is no longer anchored solely on the basis of ministries, party organs, or constitutional offices. But we are being told a different story, that it is increasingly being shaped in private spaces, Vakafanana nemaboardrooms zvakataurwa naRutendo, mafarms zvakataurwa naRutendo, WhatsApp groups and business alliances. This is what we are witnessing. It is being shaped by those with access, not necessarily those with titles. So it is no longer, your title does not matter anymore. It does not matter anymore. Because ndo patashika, that is where we are. So why does this matter at this moment, at this constitutional moment, the Cat 3 moment? Why does this matter? Because I want you to ponder in on this. When you've got informal actors beginning to speak with the confidence of official ones, like what Themba Mliswa is doing, when private gatherings begin to overshadow public institutions, or when issues of protocol become optional and proximity becomes power, just because you are near to the president, you become a power unto yourself. And this is what we are witnessing with the likes of Vanachivayo, who are now controlling some of the institutions in Zimbabwe, getting people arrested willy-nilly just because they've got a score to settle with an individual. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, spells or describes a system that is starting to resemble something we have never seen before. I don't think during the Mugabe time we have seen this. Because the Mugabe era, we were occupied with just competing networks in the form of the G40, the Lacoste, and they all operated within the institutions. Even though there was a fragmentation in terms of weaknesses or weakened, or weakened institutions. Some of the things that began to be fueling, mistrust, the issue of Grace Mugabe, and the ultimate destabilization of the state that then ensued. But you can begin to draw parallels. Kuti nguva yaMugabe nenguva yatiri haina kumira mushe. So you might even start to say, are we witnessing a similar drift here? Because this is more or less the same drift that you might say led to the 2017. But is it worse compared, to 2017? Because the clash that we are seeing, right now between Charamba and Mliswa is not an isolated incident. As I said, it is a symptom of a system where the lines between the public office and public influence have become so much blurred, such that you can never tell which is which. When you see where political authority is contested, not within the institutions where it is supposed to be contested, like in parliament or in party congresses, but on social media and in private meetings, ladies and gentlemen, the question on who speaks for the president is no longer a simple answer. We can never play with that question. We can never answer, that question. It is now complex. So this is where now we need to come in as citizens to notice these things, to understand what is going on, because we need clarity. Kuti utongi uripo uri kutongani, and utongi uripo uri kukondorwa nani. Because kutonga nyika kunodeserve transparency. Hatingatongwe nezveusiku, hatingatongwe nezvidzangaradzimu, night crawlers, night walkers. We should refuse that. We should refuse that. So as I said, Gutizo, this is not about Themba Mliswa versus Charamba. Because if you want to cast a critical eye on what Charamba, wrote, you might say, "Good, Charamba is Charamba. Is just being dismissal." But what does that signify? The dismissal of Edwin Charamba, ladies and gentlemen, is a political. I mean, it's a political signal. Because when you see him speak like that, and when he's colliding with an individual who is putting himself in a position of speaking for the president, maybe there's no competition over proximity, access, and trying to control the narrative around the president.